Aloha, Rich Halverson here, and this is ITS128, and we are in Chapter 7, last half of Chapter 7 here, and I'm going to go over the last two quizzes. That would be the quiz in Section 7.2.6 and 7.2.9. So let me share my screen here, and I'm going to try this fancy new feature that I discovered uh, that my new monitor can do. Can I? Let's see. I don't think. Hold on a second. All right. Okay. I wanted to get my touch screen here to work, so that works. Okay. So we are in chapter 7, and starting here around 7.2.6, traversing elements in a for loop. So I wanted to point out that you can access all the content, and in fact, in these later quizzes, they often refer to chapters in the past. So you can always click this table of contents here, and you should be able to get at all the older stuff, and you can even get at quizzes too if there's it doesn't show here, but um, I don't know if there's a quiz in this section or not. For example, section 3.2. So if we go to the next page, see here, yeah, here's a quiz, and so you can go back, and if you need to take previous quizzes, um, I've got conflicting answers from the Pearson rep. I think the Pearson rep is getting up to speed. Very pleasant to communicate with on the um, over email, but he or she needs to often refer back and get back to me, and sometimes the first answer I get is wrong. So I'm not really sure about how this ends up appearing in the in my grades if you take a, a quiz past the due date, but it appears it's okay. And if any of you out there would like to request that I look and see uh, where the system has your grade at the moment, uh, then just let me know. All right, so let's get back to where we were. Let's see. So we're going to start with traversing elements in a for loop here. And and on the right here, I've got the quizzes, or the quiz questions. Okay, so I'd like to go over the quiz questions, and then locate in the textbook where where you would what you need to know to be able to solve the quiz question problem. Okay, so the first question here is, you are given a variable zip code list that refers to a list. Okay, so it's a list of zip codes. Write some code that assigns a true value, uh, a true to a variable called duplicates. So this duplicates is a variable. If there are two adjacent elements in the list that have the same value. So we're traversing a list, and we're trying to see if elements have the same value. All right, so so it's a traversing the list problem. Second one is it's the same list of zip codes. You have a variable called duplicates, and here you're looking for just if there's any duplicates in the whole list. If any two elements in the list have the same value. Here, it's two adjacent elements. Okay, so these are two different problems, and this is looking for two adjacent elements. This is looking for any two in the list. The third question here, given a variable called temps, this is a list of temperatures, floating point, and we're supposed to just compute the average temperature. We're supposed to compute the average temperature, set that value, set a variable named avg underscore temp to that value, and then it tells, oh, so we're going to have to compute a total and then divide by the number of elements in the list. In this one, you're at 4-6, we're given a list called incompletes, and we're given a single student ID, and we're supposed to, and presumably it's this list of incompletes has a list of all of the counts the number of times the value is associated with okay, so this is a list of incompletes this is a list of student IDs that contain that are students that have incompletes, and we're supposed to, and given a particular student ID, we're supposed to count up how many incompletes that student has in the list. All right. We're supposed to assign that value to this variable. Assign this variable to that value. And then fifth one, a list contains parking tickets, and it's parking tickets for each day of the year. And we're supposed to figure out which, so starting with January 1st and January 2nd, January 3rd, you know, all the way up to today. And we're supposed to search through the list, traverse the list, and determine which day the most number of parking tickets, the most number was issued. All right, the last one is associate a sum of non-negative, the sum of non-negative values in a list. So we're supposed to search through this list, and we're supposed to add up all the non-negative values. All right. All right, so let's go through the chapter here. So this is how, this first, we're talking about traversing a list, and using a for loop. Very handy way to traverse a list. You don't need to use a for loop, you use a while loop, but in this case we're looking at for loops because it's a special version of for loops that help you traverse lists easily. And this statement here will traverse the list one by one at a time, and this is an iteration, this is an iterative thing. So it loops from the first one to the last one, and each time it's going to print it out. So it's presumably it's words in a list or something, and it's printing out each iteration. Here is another way of doing it. You can print out, express the range like this, and this is the length of the list. So we're going from 0 to the length of the list, except for we're skipping every other one. And we're displaying out 0, then 2, then 4, then 6, then 8, and so that would be expressing the even numbered lists. And then here we need to, since we're using an index, we need to index each of these elements of the list, you know, unlike this version here. All right, so is that enough for us to do the quiz? All right, so so I'm gonna do the quizzes, and I'm gonna do something a little different this time. I'm actually gonna do the quiz on this here, and if I get errors and so on, that'll help you see, you know, what I do when I get errors. And in the past, I've resisted doing this, but I'm gonna do it a few times today just so you can get some more hints if you still have problems. Okay, so it's this first one here. Given a list, given a list of zip codes, and we're supposed to find zip codes that adjacent elements. Okay, so we're going to start out with we have a variable called duplicates, and it's set equal to false unless we find a pair in the list, adjacent pair that are the same. So let me copy this, and so we're going to start out with duplicates equals false. And then we're going to loop through the elements of the list, and we want to be able to refer to an element and the one right after it. Okay, so we have to use the indexing version, the indexing way of writing these. And so so I'm going to for, and I can use k, I guess, k in range of 0 to the length of the list. I'm going to copy this because I've typed it wrong before and gotten an error. I spent an error. Okay, so it's this, and we don't really need to go all the way up to the top. This would take us all the way up to the top. We need to go to the top -1 because we need to, the loop only needs to go up to the second to the last one, and then the second to the last one, we compare that with the last one. So if we have you know, 5 items in the list, there's only 4 comparisons, right? 1 with 2, 2 with 3, 3 with 4, and 4 with 5. That's only 4. So I'm going to do a -1 here. And I don't need to specify a step because I'm just going to be step one at a time. Okay, so that's that. And then I just need to check if zip code, I want to make sure I get it right here. So let me copy this. If zip code of k is equal to zip code of k plus 1, then duplicates equals true. And so k is going to start out at 0, and it's going to go all the way up to, if there's 5 in the list, it's going to go all the way up to 4, because it's the number of elements in the list -1. So the range is going to be, let's say there's 5 in the list. The range is going to be up to 4, and then this is going to test the first one and the second one, and then the second one and the third one, and the third one and the fourth one, and the fourth one and the fifth one, assuming 5 elements in the list. Okay, and this particular approach loops through all of the pairs. So even if the first 2 are the same, the first 2 pairs are the same, and none of the other ones, this is going to go through the whole list. But it doesn't say you can't do that. So let's see if this works. And it does. Okay. So I got the green here, but let's look at this solution. Here in this solution, we're not using a for loop, we're using a while loop. And also what we're doing is we are looping, so we're going from k equals 0. K starts out at 0, and then each iteration, it increments by 1, and it goes all the way up to the length of the list -1, just like my solution. But if it should, and then it uses a fancier assignment statement here, and this is going to evaluate to true or false. This is what we're looking for. It's just like this here. This is going to evaluate to true or false, and so that true or false value is duplicates. This variable called duplicates is going to be set to that true or false value. So if this is ever true, then this duplicate's value becomes true. And the way this loop iteration works is once it gets set to true, once this thing gets set to true, see, this loops while duplicates is not true. Once it gets set to true, it terminates. And so this way is actually a more efficient way of writing this, because if the first 2 elements, for example, are equal, this is going to stop right away, whereas this loop is going to continue on for the rest of the list. All right, so anyway, that's that question. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, in this problem, we're actually looking for duplicates, any 2 duplicates. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go. Can I go back to this one? And can I copy this out? I'm gonna copy this as a starting point. And this doesn't really copy very well. There we go. See if I can copy this. And I'm gonna go back over here, and I'm gonna start with this. Paste. All right. Here, I am not just looking for a pair, a adjacent pair. Okay. When I get to this point here, I need to look at everything in the rest of the list. Okay. So first of all, I got to get these indentations correct because I don't want to get messed up by them. I don't want to get killed. All right. Now the indentations are good. All right. So here. Okay, so k is equal to, can I use another? Oh, I can use a j. Oh, good. That helps me. So I'm going to go while j is less than, no. While j is less than, okay, I guess j equals, okay, so I want to start and I want to compare k with j starting at k plus 1 going all the way up to the end. So I'm going to start j is k plus 1. So I'm going to put k plus 1. And so that's the same as j here. And while j is less than this, and I'm going to go I need to go all the way up to the top this time. While j is less than the end, from here to the end of the list, why does that look like that? Then compare this. So k is going to remain k through the whole loop, but j is going to keep on incrementing by 1. I got to increment j increment by 1. And then, yeah, then k's got to be incremented by 1 here, down here. So here we have, while this is the k loop, it's the same k loop as before. But then down here, we're going to loop from k plus 1 all the way up to the end. And we're going to compare each of those k plus 1 all the way to the end with k. And if there's ever a duplicate, then we're done. So I can actually do this too. I can actually put this here, because whenever we find a duplicate at all, then we can quit. Yeah, so any two elements have the same value. So we don't need to identify them or say how many of them. We just need to find out if there is one. If there is any two elements that are the same. All right, I'm going to try this. All right, I'll tell you what. This time I'm going to purposely insert an error. Okay, I'm going to purposely insert an error. Let me just do this. See what it says. See, I can't go j all the way equal to this value, because this value is going to be 1 greater than the highest index. Remember, if this value is 10, then the indexes are 0 through 9. So if you try to index element number 10, you get an error, because if index is equal to 10, then you're actually trying to access the 11th element. So you see this cannot go past this number minus 1. So this is a purposely inserted error. And in fact, I think I'm going to put another error in there too and submit this. See what happens. Okay, error. All right, here's what it did. It tried 2 things. It had tried out 2 cases. And what this does is it just takes your code and it runs it on this case and this case. And if it passes both of them, if the result, this is the result, looks at the result, if that's correct, then in both times, then your solution is correct. If it's not correct, then it's not. So So here, case 1, it's using this array, and this array has got, this should be false. It expected false. It didn't get anything. Okay, an exception occurred. So index out of range. Okay, so I got a list index out of range error. That would be because J went past, the index of J went past how many elements were in this list. What would probably happen is this list has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's indexed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what happened was this J went all the way up to 5 because it's less than or equal to 5. And an index of 5 is out of range, which is why you got this error. Okay, here, same error. Okay, so anyway, let's fix this. I'm going to do this. That fixes one of them. And I submitted it again, and I got an error again. Oh, no, okay. Oops, this is the... Okay, so when executed, your code went into an infinite loop. Ooh, it just tells me that. This gives us some suggestions. In this case, these suggestions are not relevant. We're in an infinite loop. The reason we're in an infinite loop is because this while loop just keeps on executing because k never gets incremented. So k sits at 0. It just keeps on looping forever with k equaling 0, and of course that doesn't get us anywhere. So in this line down along here, I need to do k. I need to increment k plus equals 1. And I hope that this is correct. See, this was a little bit different. This is, see, I used that fancy way of assignment statement here, and this one, this one didn't. And k, oh, and this one used j and k reversed, and I didn't. All right. So anyway, that's question 2. Let's do question 3. Okay, so we've got a list of, we've got some temperatures. Temps refers to a list, and they're floating. And assign a variable name average temp. I'm going to copy that and say, and it's a value. Compute an average. All right, so I'm just going to put this. I don't need to. I can do this at the end. It's total. So okay, so I'm supposed to compute the average temperature in this list. And so I got to go through one by one and add them all up, and then I got to divide by the number of elements in the list, and that gives me the average. So I'm going to start with this. This has got to start up by equaling 0. And then I'm got to loop through the whole list for, and I can use k, for k in the list. What's the list? The list is temps. For k in temps, I'll get rid of that space just in case, colon, total, I got to add k to the total. We should be floating, should be float. So maybe I should do float, whatever. And then after I'm done, I just say average temp. So I've added them all up. And so that's going to be equal total divided by, I don't know, I guess I could do float. I should do this, I suppose. Length of temps, something like that. Okay. All right, I'm gonna, that's fine. No, in fact, I'm gonna try, I'm gonna see what happens when I don't put the floats. Okay, I didn't put the floats. Submit. Ooh, I got exactly right. Okay, anyway, what's next? All right, so I've got a variable named incompletes that's a list. And I got a variable called student ID, and I'm supposed to write some code that counts the number of times that student ID appears in this list and assign that value to the number of incomplete. So I'm going to copy this right now and do a paste, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. And then I'm going to loop through this list of incompletes, copy this, and I'm going to say for, I can use a variable k, for k in this list, for all the k's in the list, if k is equal to student ID of the loser, if that is true, then increment this value. Copy, paste. It just increment it. So I'm counting them up. I'm counting how many times this is in this. So I'm pulling them out one at a time, and I'm using k to be able to refer to that value, to the student ID. And I got to check to see if it's equal to this student ID value. And if it is, I increment the number of incompletes. All right. All right, so let's do an error here. I'm gonna get rid of this. Submit it. Boom. All right. You almost certainly should be using an equal sign of this. Ooh, length. Oh, these are just stuff I should use. Ooh, length. Oh, I see. If I'm going to use a while loop, I would use length. But I'm using a for loop, so I'm using range. Okay, so look and see what it did was it started out with this was the student IDs, and it was looking for a 111, and it should have found one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, and so it expected a value of 5, and it got 4. How would it have gotten 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it got 4. Wonder how it got 4 out of my code. Yeah, I don't know how. Yeah, so somehow, it must initialize it as this thing must initialize number of incompletes at something to ensure failure should should you not put this line in. All right, so let me try. Wait a minute, maybe it is. No, this should. All right, I'm going to try this. I hope I'm right. I could have. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there we go. All right, did it exactly the way I did it. All right, the next question here is a list named parking tickets. Okay, so you got this parking tickets list, and it's number of parking tickets given out by the police each day from the beginning of the current year. The first element contains January 1st tickets, number of tickets, and so on. And the last element contains the number of tickets given today. So we want to write some code that associates this value with the largest value in here. Oh, how would I do that now? All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start out with some value called K, I guess. Most tickets. Oh, most. Okay, we're going to start out with this equaling 0. and just to start it out at a low number. And then what we're going to do is we're going to loop through all the days, and we're going to try to see each time we find a day that has more tickets than this value, we're going to set this value equal to that number of tickets. Okay, and so as we go along, this will always contain the biggest number that it found so far. So we go through all of them, and each time we find a bigger one, we will store that number into this variable. And at the end, this variable should contain the biggest one because it has looked at every single one of them each time, keeping the bigger of the comparing of the comparison. So I'm just going to do for k in parking tickets. And I can just do if k is greater than most tickets, then most tickets equals k. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that this is the right answer. Another way you could do it is you could do it actually most tickets equals max of most tickets and k. That'll work too. So so this is the suggested one, and I did a little. Oh, this used. Oh, this starts out by setting the most tickets to the first one. Uh, I guess we can assume that there will be, well, there's not going to be any days where there was a negative number of parking tickets. The most the I'll say the best case would be if each day was 0, okay, and this still captures that. There's not going to be a day that's got a negative number, so it's not. So anyway, so that's why mine works just as easily, just as well as this one. This is just another way of doing it. All right, what's the next? What's the last question here? Associate the sum of the non-negative values in the list numbers. Okay, so you got a list called numbers, and we want to sum up all of the non-negative values in numbers, and that value is going to be set equal to sum. So let's start by setting sum equal to 0. And then we're just going to loop for n for num for number in numbers for number in numbers for each number in numbers. If number is greater than 0, then sum, add that number to add that to sum. Now, can I put less, greater than, or greater than or equal to? Well, I can. I can put greater than. We're supposed to sum non-negative values. And the thing is 0 is a non-negative value. We're skipping 0, but it doesn't matter because if we included 0, sum plus 0 is still sum, so it doesn't matter because it's 0. And yeah, it looks like that would work. So, oh, look, it gave me the answer twice. Oh, to reinforce my answering, you see. All right, so all right, so I have given you the pretty much the solution to this quiz, and so I hope this helps. And the next video will be the last quiz in this chapter. Thanks for watching.